Good to be talking to you this afternoon, albeit we'd be better off if we were face to face, but alas, like most people, not able to quite at the moment.
Not just yet, no. And to be honest, missing cereals this year. It'd be nice to be there. It's always a nice opportunity to meet our customers, because we don't have the opportunity to get out and see people that much. I do on the train. I'm very lucky on the training side. I get to visit on site and keep in contact, but cereals is different, isn't it? It's always nice to find out what people are up to, and for people to come and see us and ask us a few questions as well, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. A point in the calendar that we always look forward to. So what we thought we'd do this afternoon, because we are recording this on this afternoon, is just a conversation between Adam and myself. To be fair, if we were at cereals ourselves, which should have been in a few weeks' time. So what we're going to do is just give you a bit of an overview on a few things that have been going on with regards to Farmplan and Gatekeeper, and specifically a brief update. We're then going to look ahead at prep, certainly with harvest looming ever closer, and then just a few tips and hints for the season ahead, and then we'll wrap up at the end with a little bit of a sort of a if you like, some points to follow up on, and if there's any specific questions, what you can do next. But first and foremost, if we'll sort of go straight in with a bit of an update, and the first one on my list, Adam, is the new RPA mapping import.
Brilliant, this, isn't it? Yeah. I know we've had facility in the past to import your RPA boundaries, but it wasn't quite as seamless as this. This is just the case of, if you know your SBI number, and even if it's not your own land, so it opens up a whole set of opportunities. You know, if you're renting land in, if you're doing work on behalf of somebody else, being able to identify those areas without having to go and find that, you just pop the SBI number in and at least they come. And we've got an example of what those RPA boundaries typically might look like on there. They're obviously not the cropping boundaries, they are the full extent of the field. They're hedge to hedge, ditch to ditch, but they're a great starter for 10. Like I say, especially if you're working somewhere else that you're not familiar with, and you need to create some cropping maps or operating maps for people, then this is fantastic. This is an example of a few here. I think if you just disable the backdrop there, Ben, we could see the outlines there quite nice and clearly.
Yeah, bear with me.
There we go. So this is what we can get now at the click of a button. I don't know if you might be able to just pop to publish in there, Ben, and we can just show everyone where it is we import from. Yep, so you can, like Ben said, you can either, while you're in farm mapping, or the usual inbox where publishing center, sorry, where you're used to importing things from. As you can see on the screen, it's just so simple. Pop your SBI number in, click whether it's yourself or whether you're doing it on behalf of somebody else, whether you'd like the boundaries to be added as a cartographic layer, or whether you'd like them to come in and actually start off and kick off and become your cropping boundaries. I think I would probably recommend the former and just have it there as a cartographic layer, but you know, either option, and it's just yeah, very simple, and I think hopefully much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feedback so far is this has been really well received. And hopefully you can see on the screen here, this is the next screen in the sequence, which is if you're importing those RPA boundaries directly against the field records that are already existing in Gatekeeper. And it actually matches on the map sheet and national grid number, an example of which you can see on the screen there for Pitt Field. So there are opportunities for matching those directly, but if you want to omit any particular field boundaries, then you can do. You don't have to link each one.
And they could always be updated later on. So like I was saying, this is perfect for growers who are renting in land. All they've got to do is set the field up in Gatekeeper, match it when it comes in here, and you've got a start for 10. At least you can produce a map, show operators and show colleagues where the field is. And you could always come back and tweak the boundary afterwards to refine it a little bit. So yeah, I think this is yeah, we're really pleased with this new import feature.
And it's probably a subject closer to your heart, Adam, but I mean, just looking at some of the maps you can create once you've got these RPA boundaries in as a starter, possibilities are probably endless, aren't they?
I was just going to say that, yeah, it's absolutely. Quite often when I go out training and we're looking at farm mapping, we're looking at different uses for it, so operator risk maps, and especially this one you're looking at here, the old NVZ risk maps, which most people are going to have to produce in some format or other. These RPA boundaries provide a great little basis straight away for that. So sometimes you see you haven't got cropping boundaries in certain places because they've not been mapped before, or it's new land, etc. Here, anybody in the office could import these boundaries and start creating a cross compliance map or NVZ risk maps just straight away like that, and very accurately measure along as well, so you know spread zones and things that you've got to mark out on there, because the RPA boundaries are coming to the edge of the actual parcel area. Then nicely 6 meters, 10 meters off of that is sets you up very nicely.
Yeah, and quite a bit of interest on that, and we've been running a special offer on mapping as well. So if people are interested in taking up that mapping module or anything else actually they see today or hear about, then by all means let us know, and we'll give you some details at the end of this run through. The next thing I had on my list, Adam, was the new intercom support. How's this been going down?
Again, loving this. Intercom is relatively new feature that we've had in our Gatekeeper platforms, both online and our Gatekeeper desktop. And from a support perspective, it's really added a new dimension into how we can support our customers. And how we can communicate generally with them, because we can get messages straight into the program, information about little tips about thinking about what things they should be doing this time of year, like creating nutrient management plans, etc. So that we can send messages through. But more importantly, from a user perspective, Ben's just showing us here on the dashboard page, you can open up a little chat window within the program and start a chat going on with somebody on support. And the great thing is, unlike a lot of websites you go on where the chat is automated and it's a bot responding to you, you might get an automated response just initially, but we have 5 live chat seats which are actually manned by our support team members, the same guys that you'd be speaking to if you phoned up, and you can start a conversation with them this way. And it's brilliant. I did some remote training with a customer recently, and she commented on how fantastic that was, because she didn't want to hang around. The lines were busy, so no waiting on the queue. She could be doing one thing, typing away, and then having this little chat conversation with somebody in support at the same time. So just adds a new dimension. It's just one of those extra ways we can do that support piece that we're also proud of and take very seriously here at Farmplan.
Yeah, absolutely. Which sort of brings us on to the next subject again, which is on my list, is about these new relationships that we're putting into Gatekeeper. Primarily, these are links with crop optimization services. So quite often we have inquiries from customers who are working with other third-party systems, such as Hummingbird and Kiss and Hub, which are 2 of the new links we've got put into Gatekeeper. Just about how they can unlock further value from the data they've got within Gatekeeper, whether it's field records, information, and share that in a permissioned way that allows those other third-party tools to make best use of the information for the benefit of the farmer. So this is a real nice area where sort of Gatekeeper continues to advance and sort of sits in as that office hub that allows integration not only with these third-party tools and crop optimization services, but again with mapping and precision farming or in-field recording on smartphones and tablets. All sorts.
And am I right? It's Hummingbird, Kiss and Hub, and I think there's a MySoil integration as well, isn't there? Ben, is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. MySoil is something that we're working on at the moment, and we're hoping to have that out in the very short term. So again, just building on that functionality to make this data that's available in agriculture flow more easily and readily where it needs to go to. Again, as I said, sort of just making sure that Gatekeeper is doing exactly what it should be doing. So managing that crop records, the cost analysis, product verification, and if, like many of our customers, they're wanting to work with soil or whoever else is in the industry to provide those prescriptions, that they can share the right information. So yes, MySoil is being worked on as we speak at the moment, and we're also working on the new Generation 4 integration with the John Deere terminals, and we're expecting that to be ready for harvest. So something that we're really excited to be able to bring out.
Definitely, I know that Gen 4 integration has been very much it's been looked forward to for a while now. I know there's lots of people, both our friends in the dealership networks as well, been asking about this, and their customers and our mutual customers on there is something that's is eagerly awaited, and it's going to just continue that like you said, that theme of that integration that we've got, isn't it, Ben? That Gatekeeper has always been that independent platform that sits there, and it's got some great tools in there, especially from a precision farming point of view. But actually, it's the power in there is controlling that all that data essentially, so that the user's got that the ability to look at the analytics, look at the information on there in one place. Because that's what it's an FIMS, isn't it? It's what it's there to do. It's there to gather this in, and it does so very well. And now these integrations we've got, if you choose to use another platform because that's got the right tool for that job, well, perfect. But let's share and like you say, make it easier to bring this together. And I think this is just the next step in that evolution of the product, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. And so for existing customers who are already using the John Deere integration module with Gatekeeper, this functionality will just be rolled out to all of you. If you're taking on a new John Deere terminal and that happens to be the Gen 4 series, then that integration should be in there very shortly indeed. But something else that's already gone into Gatekeeper, and I'm pleased to say that we're the only FMIS to have this new feature integrated, and that's the new version 9 of nutrient management. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic as well. Yeah, again, like you say, it's a first in there. First ones to incorporate version 9. So all of you, if you're using the Gatekeeper Nutrient Management Center to create your nutrient management plans, even if it's just for the nitrogen or full nutrient planning, you're using the most up-to-date information from HDB there. And some of the processes in there have been refined slightly as well, so that whole user experience going through a nutrient management plan is a little bit more slick now. We can edit things a little bit easier, which was some other work that was put in alongside that integration with the HDB API on there. However, I should just point out, because of some of the restrictions on using version 9 with grassland, we still have version 8, which is great. I mean, that's something, a strength with the nutrient planning side of Gatekeeper. You can choose as the user which one you want to refer to, depending on where your focus is on there. So we haven't ditched version 8, that's still there, and you can go back to that and use that as your frame of reference if preferred. But version 9 with all the amendments, etc., and new stuff is in there as well. So yeah, fairly pleased with that as well, I'd say.
Yeah, a great addition. And another subject very close to your heart, certainly with your training remit, but web training really comes to the fore in the current climate at the moment, where we're struggling to reach customers face to face, not only because of the current situation that's going on around the world, but actually just due to the time of the season. And that's really web training. So being able to reach out and cover customer needs at a time that's convenient for those guys. But also to produce tailored and filtered down content that is specific for the task in hand and topical in the season. Something we were discussing just before we came on to this video link.
Yeah, absolutely. Remote training is one of those components of what we do on support that it sometimes isn't really very widely known about, that we offer this service. But quite a lot of our time is spent out on site with customers doing some really great bespoke training on there, which is always great value, and much appreciated when we're on site helping get that best value out of the software with people. But equally, sometimes there is a cost to that training, and there is, more importantly than that, a chunk of time taken out of the user's day on site. Whereas remote training, hour blocks, nice and convenient, and it can just be topping up something. So refreshing how to create variable rate plans using the grid generator or something. Book an 11 o'clock morning slot because that's what suits you as the farm manager, and just go through and have a quick brush up on some things and help create some plans. And yeah, and like I say, it's not just about the situation we find ourselves in with lockdown and the restrictions we've had on travel through COVID-19, but just as a tool generally, it's been great. But we've had good uptake on that, and people engaging with us on that, taking up that remote training option, and really good feedback from people who didn't realise it was a sort of an option before for their training needs.
Yeah, very much so. And also we're looking at other opportunities as well, such as producing a series of webinars. We've already started some of these, and there should be a further curriculum and series to follow. So watch this space and keep an eye out on our Farmplan website for further information.
Definitely, and those webinars that are in hand, the content's being created, and they'll cover all 3 products actually, not just Gatekeeper, but they'll they'll cover the other product streams as well. Sorry, the finance streams and the livestock software products as well. And they'll always be free for all our customers as a bit of a value added extra on the support package there, and can be rewatched again as many times as you like. And the great thing I like about them, Ben, is that they're always live hosted. So sometimes the content might be pre-prepared in certain places just to ease with that that preparation on there in terms of that, but there'll always be a live speaker on there ready to answer any questions, so you can always be assured that you're going to get the most out of attending one of those. So yeah. Yeah,
good. And normally during this part of the conversation at a typical serial show, we're normally engaging with many existing customers, which is always great to see. And we're looking to sort of just find out how they're getting on. Are they ready for harvest? What sort of pearls of wisdom can we impart? And the conversation normally goes around stock management, how the health of their data is ready for harvest, because once things really crack on, then Gatekeeper in the office is going to sort of play second fiddle, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
So stock management is always pertinent at this time of year, making sure those harvest plans are created and ready for action, making sure that you've got the correct precision farming modules with Gatekeeper, and again, touching on the field boundaries, making sure that the data is accurate and ready to receive the yield maps as and when they come in at a later date. Support and training we've just touched on, and specific harvest data management or specific online sessions just to make sure that you're ready for harvest, and joining up those conversations as well between the Farmplan teams and those dealerships that you may be involved with, those dealer principals, to make sure that the kit and the software is ready and is ready to sort of roll as your machines will be for harvest. So quite a lot we always discuss and make sure that our customers are thinking in the right way to optimize the systems that they've invested in, and certainly with their data. Adam, what are your sort of tips at this time of the year? Where would you sort of go for a typical Gatekeeper customer?
I always like to start with the endpoint and think about the output that's required, because that's where the value is going to come out of Gatekeeper. So what level of reporting are you going to want? Are we going to want to go down to a field level or sort of granular detail where we're looking at field performance margin maps? Because that's such a fantastic feature of Gatekeeper. The margin maps are not just a yield map contour that's been shrunk down, to take off a flat rate of the fixed costs and variable costs. If you are importing as applied data as well as importing your yield data, you're going to have some really crucial, it could be some real eye-opening pieces of information you start seeing about where the spend is and what the margin's looking like on that field. So it depends which way you're going. Do you want this kind of just a broad outlook on things, or do we want that granular detail? Because then that informs in turn your processes. What products do I need therefore to be set up in my stock management, for example? Because if you're wanting to record some really accurate detail on specific premiums, for example, you're getting on particular varieties, then we need to set up our output products accordingly. If we're just going to have an average price for wheat, then we just can simplify our output list on there. So always think of that end output in mind, and then get in touch with us and ask us, well, this is what I want to produce. Well, we can say, well, this is what you need, these are the things you need to think about, and Ben's already outlined them about stock management, about creating some harvest plans to make that data easier to manage. And we've got a great example up on the screen now. We're looking at some yield data that's come in there, which we're talking before about the integration piece, weren't we, Ben? And there's ability to bring our yield data in from all of the manufacturers, New Holland, Agco, John Deere. All that yield data can be coming in here. Very important to clean it up, though. That's another thing I would say to people to be thinking about. Bringing that yield data in little and often, if you can, to spot to see if there's any gaps in there, if it's recording properly or something. Like Ben said, making sure the firmware on the box is up to date, so that we don't have any nasty surprises that we find out the yield wasn't suddenly recording when we come to do the import. But yeah, just a good time to sort of have a bit of a sprinkle, or not sprinkling, but good go through and do some housekeeping in Gatekeeper, shall I say. The field boundaries are accurate, the stock's tidied up, the right stock products and things. But like I say, I always like to think of it kind of in that reverse way, if you want, because I think if you know what you want to come out, we can easily prepare for that. So, in my top tip there.
And in terms of closing stock periods, you don't have to wait to the end of the season to even close down all of your headings. So once your inputs are finished on the fields, by all means, you can then start closing those stock periods down, because there's going to be no further deliveries that are affecting this current season. And then you're just, if you like, nibbling away at the workload that's required to make sure that you're giving yourself a fighting chance to keep on top.
Yeah, absolutely right. They're obviously individual headings. They can be closed down differently. So we could even, if it's, like you said, it's going to be busy, we could just forget about everything else and just close the primary output section down and make sure that's ready to go. So we've got some accurate pricing for harvest. Even though, switching things around, so we can change things to a price list basis if necessary, if it helps create more accurate reports on there. If we're not too focused on the actual stock levels, then we just want accurate pricing. Well, we can do that as well, but it's all about determining what information we want from the program. And
I think quite often this time of the year our support teams are engaging with customers who are looking to make sure they're up and running for harvest. So even though you're not coming to cereals directly, if there's any specific questions you've got, by all means give our team a call. They're more than happy just to give you the expert advice on the state of the data and where the system is at the moment, and any tips that they can see to help you specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. We all like speaking to customers. It's one of the best bits of our job. Support team, are fantastic. They've got expertise across the product range, and if there's anything that's not quite right, if just reach out and talk to us if there's anything. And it might be that a 5-minute phone call and sets you on the right path, or it might be some remote training, or when restrictions are lifted, coming out on site to really do some in-depth and help you set it up and make sure you're getting best usage out of it. So anywhere on that range, just pick up the phone and talk to us, I think.
And looking further ahead, obviously the new season's a bit of a way off still, but in terms of Gatekeeper and getting set up and ready, it's not that far away at all, to be fair. But we talked around nutrient management and how the new RB209 and version 9 rules are in the system, so they can be used, even at this early stage to sort of start planning ahead for the nutrient requirements for the farm. But other features within Gatekeeper, often underused, but known of, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, Sentinel Active and perhaps budgeting, integrating specifically with the office via smartphone app, so the web app, to try and streamline how that data is recorded in the field from the activity to drive those office processes. Plenty of opportunity, Adam?
Loads, isn't there? And like you say, we're not actually that far off now, are we, from thinking about getting set up for that next season? You think we want to we might even be thinking about setting up some cropping plans in Gatekeeper under setup fields, looking at what we're planning out rotation wise coming forward. Don't have to put varieties in yet, but you probably roughly know what's going to go in there, and getting that cropping set up in advance. And if you are precision farming or have farm mapping switched on, don't forget that getting those boundaries right, like Ben mentioned, that's a critical part. So not only getting the crops in that list, but making sure those boundaries are correct for the way that they're going to be farmed in the upcoming year is critical if we're going to incorporate any kind of spatial element into our system here. But like you said, actually, Ben, now we've got a bit of a time to think about, are we going to make next year the best set of data in Gatekeeper we've ever had and have the most complete set of records, and how do we go about doing that? So like you say, you've got the options for web apps, or if you're linking with controllers for bringing documentation in from jobs. If there's a tractor in the field doing the job and you've got a screen in there and you can record documentation on it, well, it's doing the recording for you. And what's the best way of getting that flow back and forth? So we've got those options in there, like you say, with the web grower, with the integration with the devices to help streamline the flow of information in and back and forth, actually.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and just cutting in there, actually, you know, this particular view just on setting up the cropping, which you know, we should be sort of embarking on now for the 2021 season. This really does sort of talk quite loudly about the integration, that if you're sharing information between grower and agronomist or vice versa, these fields and information can be exchanged at this early point and fine-tuned later on once the varieties are known. This information can be exchanged out with your smartphone, so the operators are working off the same field information and field areas, and exactly the same with the machines and implements if you're using Gatekeeper in a precision farming remit, to make sure that the outside, if you like, the field activity is just an extension of Gatekeeper and the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget as well, we got the Sentinel active on there, which is just brings so many features to it. It's not just that wealth of agronomic information in there. So under the library, we've got RB209 in there, we've got seeds and varieties lists published in there, we've got all the NVZ rules in there, all the NMAX stuff, all this great wealth of agronomic information, all of the product guides from all the manufacturers, everything's in there. So it really covers everything. You know, it's a one-stop shop really for everything that you might want to look up, even down to photo libraries of weed and pest pictures. You know, and then the thing it's famed for or notorious for is all the pesticide information that we hold in there. What we're looking at on the
Expired products listing.
Products.
Always
Yeah,
a
lot of people don't even know that's in there, but so fantastic for help with keeping yourself on the straight and level there in terms of audits. That's always up to date, so people might not be aware that Sentinel is updated on a weekly basis, and we're always liaising with FERA, with manufacturers, getting the most up-to-date information in there. And that's a brilliant little report just to print off pre-audit or even monthly or whenever, just to make sure you can check the pesticide store, make sure there's none of these map numbers lurking about when they're expiring. And some of the key features that Sentinel Active brings in there that you don't get with the standard Sentinel database to help this decision support that we've got in there, all the LERAP information that is held in there, arthropod, buffer zones, all the crop approval information with all the timings and everything else, links to all sort of 2,000 plus EMU documents that you might need, all the way through to you know, useful information for operators, percentage dose ingredient concentrations on the work plans, and the stock health check report that's in the stock module, which will just print you out a traffic light list of your current products that are active in your Gatekeeper.
That's a fantastic report, that one, and it's one of those areas that means that even if you're not you know, basis qualified or any other sort of qualification you've got associated with you professionally, that you can come into Gatekeeper and you can very quickly, from an administration point of view, run a report and just check on the health of the data.
Absolutely right, and it saves. You know, the job verification audit's another great example within the fields module. Like you say, Ben, you could have anybody using the system that doesn't have to necessarily have that technical knowledge, but can just be making sure that everything's up to date. There's no, you know, nasty surprises waiting for us when we print a traceability report off, things like that. So I mean, that in itself can save a lot of time in somebody having to go through the data just to make sure that it's all signed off correctly. And obviously that people you know, the agronomist is doing their job, creating the recommendation, making sure that's all lined up and ticking all the boxes. But sometimes there's a gap between the recommendation being created and the job actually being completed, where we may have gone past latest growth stage or application dates, etc. Again, with Sentinel Active just watching over your back, you can make sure that you're not, you know, there's nothing untoward getting put in by mistake inside the field records. So it's definitely something to look at incorporating in the season ahead if it's not already part of what you do. And budgeting, I think there's been a webinar recently or in the not too distant past on budgeting, and again, a module I really like. I'm not sure what that says about me, that I'm big, you know, very get excited about budgets, but it really is such a powerful part of the program. And I won't name the customer, but they're a sizable sort of estate, sort of Northampton area, just got into the budgeting and now finds it absolutely fantastic. And what he's done as farm manager is within the budgeting module set up all these different scenarios. So he's got in there wheat with muck, wheat without muck, different varieties on this program, wheat variety on program A versus for program B, fungicide options, etc. And then can run these, well, for one, can run them against the actuals as they start happening in the year, but also can just sit down there. Like this time is perfect for this, isn't it? Sit down with the agronomist, sit down with other colleagues in the business, run through all these different scenarios. And the great thing about the budgeting module is, you can take all your actual data, so all your fields, your products, they're already all set up, and you just put them in a budget and start playing around with these different scenarios. What if we did this? What if we did that? And you can see right there and then, well, that's either going to work or it's not, or it's going to be risky. And yes, and I'm sure you've had plenty of good feedback from it as well, Ben, from customers you've seen using it.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's always been seen as probably one of those fringe modules in the past, but more and more, and I think quite possibly with the season as no exception, that whilst the challenges of agriculture don't go away, to be able to have a robust plan and foresight in place for hopefully not, but when things can go wrong, does pay dividends. And it just gives many of our users control and just really to be able to put their finger on the button, when they need to have access to that information to make the right decision at the right time.
Absolutely. And it puts a whole different perspective on the way that a user might look at their costs. So, for example, when we build a budget and we've got the output in there already, Gatekeeper does this great expression of cost in cost per tonne rather than pounds per hectare or total cost. And I think that always frames the conversation slightly differently when we're talking about how much per tonne we're spending on a particular product type. So I spent £90 per tonne on seeds and plants, or whatever. Do you know what? That's excessive. It's probably wrong around. £90 a hectare on seeds and plants. But when you see it per tonne of that, you get £140 for wheat, and you see this chipping off of that makes it a whole different thing to look at. And it's just things like that which I think are great about the budgeting module. And like you say, now's as good a time as any to be thinking about looking at that and taking advantage of that option in there.
Exactly right. I think as we sort of come towards wrapping up this call now, if I was to leave you with anything or a tip for next season, I really would sort of urge you to take on some additional training and think of it as an investment in yourself, as well as your business and your data. And Adam, you may have seen this recently, but a document I saw about the most, if like the most advanced and profitable businesses, those who constantly are evolving, but not just evolving, but investing in their staff and training. Absolutely.
Well, no surprise that I'm going to endorse that. I saw that same item, that same article. Yeah, it's the increasing level of professional farm managers, and what proportion of the top performing businesses do invest in that side of things. And I think it really is cliche, but it's money well spent. And like we said, that we've got such a range of training options, from short, cost-effective, bite-sized chunks with the remote training, just hour-long, convenient, cost-effective, up to almost sort of consultancy stuff, coming and looking at the business and how it's set up. Are we getting the most out of it? And that's the real question, isn't it, Ben? I think is if we're paying the support fee for this product, is it giving us value back from it? And I think support and training services can really help you unlock that question and really give you a better return on things, and make sure that it is set up properly how you need it to be. And more importantly, it is providing the right things you need. It is providing the accurate information when you need it. It is integrating with your other industry partners that you're working with. So yeah, top tip. I'll heartily endorse that one.
Great stuff. Well, I think that probably draws us to a bit of a close. So we hope you've enjoyed not so much a ramble, but the conversation between Adam and I. If there's anything that you've seen that would be of interest and you'd like to speak to us further, then at the end of this particular session, we'll be putting up some contact details for you, whether it's inquiring into Gatekeeper to start with, or if you're an existing customer and you would like to find out more about additional modules, training, or just support. And as Adam touched on early on during this conversation, please remember that we also do other product lines as well. So finance, so accounting software, livestock, even provide hardware to many of our customers. So it's a one-stop shop. So if anything's of interest, please give us a call, check out our website and stay in touch. But thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Ben, and thanks to everybody out there. And sorry we couldn't see you in person. Like I say, it's always nice to be on the stand and meet people, but hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Excellent. Okay, cheerio.
Take care.